Hi everybody. Well, I was very lucky to get an invite to the Calty Design Studio. This is a Toyota design studio, and I was even luckier to get a chance to speak with Adam Rabinowitz. He is the chief exterior designer of Calty, and even luckier than that, just keeps getting luckier. He's standing right in front of the brand new Toyota 4Runner, this one a TRD Pro, and he's going to talk us through some of the design details of this new SUV. This is the 6th generation 4Runner. I have not had a chance to drive it just yet, but hopefully that will come soon. And until then, Adam, you can tell us a little bit more about the design and what went into making this 6th generation 4Runner.
Thank you, Robin. Like Robin said, I'm the chief exterior designer here at the Production Design Studio in Ann Arbor, and this is the all-new 4Runner. And when we started out on doing the 4Runner, we wanted to make sure it stayed distinctly 4Runner. It had to be 4Runner, it had to be rugged, bold, authentic, and we wanted to make sure it felt appropriate for the 4Runner lineage. And by that I mean, they're big shoes to fill.
You're absolutely right. And on top of that, the 5th generation 4Runner was around for quite a long time. I think it had a 15-year run before it's getting this replacement. Was there a little bit more like nervousness about this design has been with us for so long, you don't want to rock the boat too much?
I wouldn't say that we were worried about rocking the boat. We wanted to make sure that we met our customers' expectations. When a vehicle's been on the market for a long time, there's a high bar to pass because people obviously love it. And when we set out doing this one, like I said, we wanted it to have that slim body, that high lift feeling, and then there's some really cool features on the vehicle. We look back in the history of 4Runner, and by no means did we want to make a retro vehicle, but we wanted to make sure that when someone saw it, that's it, that's a 4Runner.
Well, you segued to my next point so well. Thank you for that. It definitely feels evolutionary, not revolutionary in terms of design, but all the differences I see do seem to go in the direction of more rugged, a little bit more stronger lines, bolder angles, and generally more off-road friendly. Do you feel that that's a fair assessment?
I think that's a very fair assessment. I mean, especially on the Pro, we did really cool things like we cut the bumper up so you have better angles.
This bit right here. Yep.
So we did that. This actually has a much wider track than the standard grades.
I see. So this fender flare extension is to actually allow for a wider front track.
And rear, yep.
And rear as well, okay.
Absolutely.
And the rear track as well, okay.
Other cool things, we tried to really think about everything. So even running boards, which a lot of off-roaders aren't into running boards, but if you opt for the running board,
these guys right
you'll notice
here,
how slim they are.
Ah.
And they're tucked closer to the vehicle.
Yeah, that would say that's, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch maybe.
Yep. And usually, sometimes running boards stick out, but that's an off-roading issue. So we tried to be very mindful that a lot of times these vehicles are used how they're designed, off-road. Our users use them for overlanding, they use them for camping, off-roading, and we wanted to be mindful of how they're going to be used in the wild.
Well, let's go to the front just a little bit too, because there's a couple things I'm noticing right away. At first glance, this doesn't look like a huge departure from the 5th generation, but what are the differences that are here?
That's tough, because it's truly all new.
Okay.
Now, we wanted it to feel like a 4Runner, but if you were to put the current generation or the previous generation behind it or next to it, I think you'd see how wildly different they are. And I happen to love the 4Runner. We've had many in our household ourselves. We've had like 3 TRD Pros. And as we were developing this, we had that one, next to it, and we knew that this had to just look more badass. And that was actually part of, that was on our boards. Like, this had to be, a badass adventure machine. And, part of the Toyota DNA for the trucks, we have these really slim headlamps, and they're high mounted. When we designed Toyota trucks, and we've really had the pleasure of doing a series of trucks. We did Tundra, Tacoma, 4Runner, Sequoia, and we wanted them to have a family appearance. Not a nesting doll appearance, and part of that is this slim, high mount looking headlamp, active bumper kicks, and like I mentioned on the 4Runner, TRD Pro and Trail Hunter, they're extra active. We actually cut it all out completely.
So this is specific to the Pro and the Trail Hunter?
Correct. This is just for the off-roader.
Great. Okay, well, what about the grille itself? At first glance, it doesn't look like a huge departure. It looks wider. That's the one thing I noticed, but what's different about the grille itself?
Well, see, this is very easy because you're calling out a lot of what we were doing. So the current 4Runner is a very tall-looking vehicle, and as we started exploring design studies for the next gen, we thought we really want to make it look wide. Like, it's part of how it looks athletic. That wide feel was really going to help that athletic concept. So we took some of that feeling and then we redesigned around certain cues that felt like 4Runner, but in an all-new way.
Gotcha. And I'm imagining some of this is TRD Pro specific, like these rigid fog lamps,
yes,
this light bar right here,
yep,
that kind of stuff. Is this grille design for all 4Runners, or is even the grille design TRD Pro specific?
This is all TRD Pro and Trail Hunter specific.
Okay.
So our Halo grades, the TRD Pro and the Trail Hunter, get the light bar, the signature TOYOTA grill, opposed to our standard mark, and rigid fog lights. And these are all things that for the real off-roader and for the heritage. So for the real off-road truck, Toyota has a lot of history in heritage off-roading, so that is part of that.
Great. And how about this hood scoop I'm seeing up top?
We think it's cool.
Well, yeah, it's short and sweet. Nothing like a good, concise answer. Looking along the profile of the truck, you talked about the running boards. I'm noticing a lot of sculpture into the doors here, like this character line that runs through in between the two doors. And I'm also noticing how much shape is in the rear door here to make way for the wheel well. Can you talk about that design a bit?
Absolutely. So part of this was, I had mentioned earlier about having a slim body and high lift. What this does, this helps slim the body, and it helps draw the eye to make the car feel even more high lift than it already is.
I see.
Obviously, as it comes in, we wanted to make sure that as we were designing the car, there was a really nice harmony between muscularity and crispness. So as you're looking at it, you see this really nice, full, soft surface that's then combined with these really nice, precise, crisp lines. And while we're as we're moving to the back, everyone will always ask a designer, what's your favorite part? And to me, it's when the team came and they said, we really want to bring back the wrap-up glass, the wrap-up quarter window.
So you're saying the glass kind of making its way to the roof almost.
Yep. And for 4Runner fans, they'll know exactly what that means because it is part of our DNA, part of our heritage. And when the team brought that over, we said, absolutely, this is really cool. And design engineering worked with us to make that a reality. And it was really exciting. Yeah,
and it's definitely a cool look. Now, can you speak at all to this massive wheel well I'm seeing here? I don't remember the last generation second row being so sculpted out.
So I'm sure someone will say the numbers are wrong, but the track is roughly 1.5 inches wider per side. So to get that wider track, obviously we had much larger wheel flares to get there. And part of the sculpting is trying to keep the garageability was one of the big things on the vehicle. And garageability comes down to door when the doors are open.
Sure. I see it, we have this it almost seems like the fender flare starts here and then extends out even further because we have this high-end trim that we're looking at. And then there's almost like another character line built in and it kind of flares out here. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of makes its way to the taillights. I'm assuming that was all intentional.
Absolutely. I mean, this was just part of that, trying to find that balance between muscularity and crispness. And really you want to showcase, these big flares, this muscular look, that off-road feel, and this is all part of that emotion.
Great. All right, well, let's move to the back. The back, I mean, that is just a big, straight, vertical drop right to the floor. There's very little rake in the rear windshield here. I mean, this is almost a vertical piece of glass right here. I don't think there's any curve in that glass, very little if there is any. Tell me a little bit more about the rear end design.
So one of the real cool things about the rear end design doesn't have much to do with styling. but this still has the drop rear glass.
Yes,
And
yes,
that,
yes.
for all 4Runner fans, was a must. So we kept that, so that is part of where you were calling out the shape of the glass had to be a glass that can drop. So we designed around that, and then we wanted things to be very authentic, and so a lot of the things are interlocking. Those are themes, terminology that we were using, and you can see these kind of C-clamp taillights and this really strong beam that comes across the back, and this really big-looking handle, and for the lift gate. And these are all things that it's really the back end of an SUV. It's about function, especially inside. You're carrying stuff, so we wanted to make sure we were true to how they're used. Everything as we were doing, we really wanted to base around customer usage and being true to what the vehicle is.
All right, Adam, I have to say this is a really cool looking design. Thank you so much for showing me around. But I am curious, thinking bigger picture a little bit, what is Toyota's design thinking behind the Land Cruiser and the 4Runner and how they fit with each other and how they separate themselves from each other? Because the Land Cruiser was always the big boy, but now, officially speaking at least, the 4Runner is longer than the Land Cruiser. Mentally, design-wise, how do these two kind of coexist?
So there was a lot of research done, and they're really truly two different customers. They're not competing, they're just different life stages and they're different buyers. And we believe that they will be able to live comfortably within the space together.
Well, I think that the Land Cruiser was a big departure from the outgoing Land Cruiser in a positive direction. The 4Runner seemed to go on a much more similar path, but went in the same positive direction. I think it looks rugged and it looks cool. And after hearing some of the design details from you, I'm even more excited to drive it. Adam, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.